flag in the air, and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the latest Quick Six. Going into NFL Week 13, we got the conference championships this weekend on the college football slate. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert, and we are here to give you our 6 bets for this weekend's action. Brian Twining, before we dive into everything and talk about all the stuff that was and all this, how our bets went and all that good stuff. This is you have the floor. Go ahead, throw as much shit my way as you want. You guys kicked our ass for the second straight year. 2 years against Ryan Day versus Jim Harbaugh and non-competitive. I know it was close for a little while, but it never. You mean splash play after splash play after splash play. You guys,
I gotta say, I mean, we talked prior to this, like, obviously being a major sports fan, like, I'm able to take a step back and look at this from just a non-fan perspective as well and kind of dive into what this happened. But that being said, during the game, dude, there were so many F yeahs coming out of my mouth and so many, like, this is what you mofos get for that 20 years of kicking our ass. And then,
yeah. And if you go back in history, it's Michigan dominates for a while, Ohio State dominates for a while, and we sometimes will dominate for a while, and then I think we get a little too big for our britches, a little too over our skis, and reality slaps us in the face a little bit. And I was like, oh, it's just a 1-year blip, it's not that big of a deal. And you guys, it was impressive to me because it wasn't last year. It wasn't Blake Corum, who obviously, and I think if Blake Corum plays that game with that knee injury, I think the game goes a lot differently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
because they're going to feed him.
He goes out quickly. They're like, well, we got to do this. This is our offense. JJ McCarthy. Here we go. And this is what we talked about, Brian. This is what we talked about.
I gotta say, like, he definitely proved.
Yes.
He proved to me that he could handle the pressure. Never once did I not think that he was capable of being this, like, putting this kind of performance together.
Yeah.
My main thing at the beginning of the season was how he would react in this kind of situation, and he passed with flying colors.
Well, yeah, and so obviously the floor is lower on the range of outcomes, but the ceiling is so much higher.
Oh yeah.
And it was funny because you did text me around the first quarter. You're like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta talk about the game. This is why we should have went to Cade McNamara. Blah 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 blah. And then literally the second half, barrage of points, and I'm like, this is why you play JJ McCarthy.
The only thing I will say about that, and that, yes, it's fantastic to see the splash plays, but it's extremely frustrating when you're missing the bunnies, as they call them in the NBA. Like, you have to hit the guys that are wide open for 5 yards, for 6 yards. That keeps the chains moving.
Yeah, and I expect that to be more common next year. But I think that's why you play him this year, so you can get them. Because there's going to be times where it's not going to look good and it's not going to look pretty. And obviously having Blake Corum to lean on all season was a huge huge bonus for him. Makes it so much easier on him learning the position. But yeah, he clearly needed time and he figured stuff out. And the door is open. Like, Georgia's good, but they're not as good as they were.
Yeah.
TCU's fun. Max Duggan is fun, but can you beat them? Absolutely. And USC is interesting.
Their defense is atrocious.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
Yeah. So as long as you can slow down Caleb, which is hard to do because he's looked really, really good.
He looks like a video game player.
Yeah. He's definitely, like, he's not Mahomes, but he's got some of that style to his game. Brian, I think I had one of the worst weekends just as a football. Ohio State gets their doors blown off. Tennessee Titans, I don't know what you were doing against Cincinnati. And, like, my bankroll just so let me pull up the bets so we can take a look here, and I'll share the screen. The nice thing though, Brian, is my bets on Saturday, I knew they were over. Like, I knew as soon as the game started, I had no shot. I think Tennessee and TCU beat Vandy and Iowa State like 100 and something to 14. So yeah, I just completely like whiff. Thankfully, Carolina hit that under for me. Although that was a lot closer than I kind of wanted it to be.
I mean, was it really like no matter how many times Denver was moving the ball, like at this stage of the season, do we expect anything less from Russell Wilson? I mean, he looks,
and obviously they're terrible and all
they're terrible.
But like I thought like we were gonna get like a weird like backdoor field goal or something
defense
that would just completely blow it. So but yeah, so that was at least nice to salvage my day. I didn't get completely obliterated. I only lost like less than 3 units, so not the end of the world. And then obviously you kept it going with your amazing weekend. Michigan team total over 23.5, which it was a good call by you because the game line was moving differently than the team totals, but I think that says more about the people who bet team totals versus the people who bet.
Yes.
Joe Public, some Michigan fan, Ohio State fan, random college football fan. Oh, it's a big weekend. It's a big game. I got to get a little action on it so I can be even more entertained. But
exactly.
When you saw the juice on the team total for over on Michigan and under on Ohio State, that was a little concerning, and that was a really good job by you.
And I do want to say too, like there was something to that. I think I had texted you like the total was set at a number that didn't quite equate what the team totals were set at either. So to me, that said we're going to get a lot of scoring from both sides here.
Right, and you got to pay attention to that because they set the line to kind of balance that out. But then they move the numbers independently based on how the action's coming in. So look at the team totals. You might be able to find better numbers. You might be able to find better numbers on the overall total. Like you got to kind of pick and choose and take advantage because there is opportunities to take advantage. If you're like, hey, this number, is dropping significantly because this quarterback may be out or this running back may be out. And then you can go to the team total and it hasn't really moved that much. So you go, or maybe the spread's moving and you can go, okay, we expect this team to not perform as well. And that's why the spread's moving significantly. We'll go to the team total. Maybe you can find a little action and take advantage of it that way.
Yeah. And it was also interesting, not to hold us up anymore, but
you're good.
Early in the week when Ohio State was posted at -7.5, like my first initial reaction was, I'm only going to bet this one of or two ways. I'm either going to take Ohio State against the spread and expect them to kick the shit out of Michigan, or I'm going to go Michigan money line because I didn't think in any world we were going to get one of those games where it came down to the end or a 2-point conversion. Yeah. It was going to be one way or the other. And when it came Saturday morning and you saw the line actually go up to 9.5, like you could have came back in and jumped on Michigan at it was like almost plus 500 almost at that point because so much money was coming in on Ohio State. And even if you had laid the 7 early in the week, you probably still wound up cashing out profitable on that game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great job by you. Dolphins first half, that was a really smart play. I mean, obviously the game that was
the Texans suck.
They're literally taking out their starters, and although I will say, when we get into this week's action, they didn't quite make the cut, but I kind of like Houston.
I was just gonna say it's a game that I'd almost added.
At home, getting 7 against Deshaun, I think this could be an interesting spot. And then Chargers money line. We even talked about this on the show. I said taking the money line is definitely the move because this team is wonky and they like to find weird ways to play games. And my God, they needed a 2-point conversion to beat the Cardinals.
Honestly, I almost feel like the side was taking the Cardinals. Like this is a luck win on my part, in my opinion, by the way that they played. And later in the week, as we got like in the Friday, Saturday, I actually went back and took Arizona with the points because I think it was up to like 4.5 or something. And I was like, Chargers money line, Arizona plus the points, even as a mess they are. These two teams are very similar versions of each other. And Brandon Staley may be a little more Cliff Kingsbury than we all want to admit. His decision making is definitely masked by how good Justin Herbert can be at times.
Yes, yeah, a great quarterback can definitely do that. And it's weird. It's like he definitely is like felt pressure from fans, media, whatever, to not be so outgoing and not be so aggressive. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's talk about our picks for this week. We have 6. We have a couple on the college slate, and then we have a bunch on the NFL slate. So North Carolina Tar Heels plus 7.5 is my favorite college bet. I will actually have some interesting notes. Pulled this from Action Network, I believe. So underdogs that failed to cover multiple games in a row are 19-4 against the spread, 82.6 in their conference championships, covering by an average of 10.93 points. This trend applies to North Texas and North Carolina. So I like North Carolina. I don't trust Clemson. I know it's a little bit of a weird spot because they lost to South Carolina, and I don't want to overreact, but I haven't liked this Clemson team all year long. I like the over. I think in a world where North Carolina either wins or keeps it close. But DJ has been so bad. This offense is so archaic. I think DJ is going to transfer in the off season. Come out west, Carolina, like Oregon could make a lot of sense. But I think Drake May is great. I think you can throw on Clemson, and I think he keeps it within the number, even if it takes, Clemson's up double digits, a backdoor to late touchdown. This is a spot where Clemson was like, oh, we're going to the playoff. We have such an easy path. This is going to be awesome. And North Carolina was like, we're happy to make a bowl game. And now they're playing the ACC championship. This is a great spot for them. Clemson's just playing out the season. Players are going to be leaving, transferring, going to the pros, whatever, over the Dabo Swinney experience. So I am taking North Carolina plus the 7.5 for your call.
I was just going to say, I really like that call because Clemson, this is a game where they're coming off of their biggest loss in quite some time for this school, being eliminated from the college football playoff conversation. So This is definitely a letdown spot for them because how much are they going to actually care about winning the ACC when there's nothing greater that they can achieve this season?
Right. This is usually a spot where they win the ACC. They have a big, Taco Bell hamburger party, get pizza.
Yep.
And then, they obviously wait to hear their name called and what spot they're going to be playing in for the college football playoff. And that's just not a reality for them this year. So I think it's a great spot. We'll go with your pick for Saturday. And you're going to go with the team total over 17.5 for Michigan in the first half.
Yeah, so this is, again, I'm going to ride this team for as long as possible. I don't normally bet for my Michigan team just because it just entails more heartbreak than if it doesn't hit. However, we're coming into a spot here where this offense is clearly rolling. Like, they've scored over 40 points, I think 10 of 12 games or some ridiculous amount of times this season.
Yeah.
Purdue's defense is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue's offense is also very one track, and Michigan eats up teams like that who cannot do both really well. So I think that this is a spot where you're probably going to see some short fields, some extra possessions. Even without Blake Corum, this offense is clearly capable of putting up a ton of points.
Yep.
And coming in, during the latter half of the season, Ohio State's defense did improve itself, and it was much better than what Purdue had shown over the years. So, I mean, they're going up against a lesser team. I think Michigan is full go. Jim Harbaugh is pedal to the metal right now, and this team's looking to impress to possibly jump into that one spot, depending on what Georgia looks like in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised you guys did jump into the one spot after beating Ohio State the way you did, but
but I mean, you can't really fault Georgia. Like, they've just taken care of business all season.
They've been playing for this the whole way.
They literally clocked in and clocked out
with their food.
Yep.
Had their moments. I think this is a great call. And I think even if Purdue is able to push the pace a little bit and Aiden O'Connell gets a couple touchdowns early, you just need the team total. So I think Michigan can score with them. So you can get, even if it's a more of a high up tempo first half than people expect.
Well, we saw this we saw this during last year's Big Ten championship too, where Michigan had 2 huge splash plays on trick plays early in the game. Like it's at this point of the season, it's clear that Jim Harbaugh's staff has been hiding a lot of stuff, and it's probably more of it's going to come out this week.
Yeah, and I think obviously you don't have to break all of it out because you want to save some of it for the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
but, and then obviously not having Corum to just kind of chew the clock and actually run some more up tempo, some unique stuff, I think is a good call. Just a couple quick thoughts. I think if you can get Utah plus the 3, I think that makes some sense. I like K-State this week. I hit them on the money line.
Money line. All right.
Yeah. 2.5 is fine. Obviously, we've seen like games like they saw against Baylor where TCU might win but not cover. So if you want to take the points, I completely understand that. And I really want to back Georgia, but the 17 and the hook always worries me just enough. And then even UCF rather. Against Tulane could make some sense. So those are just a couple quick thoughts. But again, I am North Carolina plus 7.5. Brian is Michigan team total over 17.5 in the first half for our college picks. Let's go to Sunday and talk about some NFL games where we have some real games that are going to be interesting, Brian. But we are here talking bets and ways to make money. And so I'm going to go with the craptastic team. That is the Detroit Lions team total over 25.5 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Lions obviously offense isn't their problem. We've actually seen some interesting spots. Per TJ Hernandez of 4 for 4. The Lions are favored for just the 3rd time this season and the first time since week 4. The 2 other games where they were favored, they combined for 78 points. So in games where you can score and they are expected to win, they rack up the points. And we've seen Jacksonville have to score. We've seen Jacksonville's offense, like last week, actually looked pretty dang good. We have some revenge spots, including DJ Chark against his former team. DeAndre Swift seems to be finally like pretty close to fully healthy, and he's getting a little more use. So I think this is a good spot for the Lions.
Hey man, you can't talk about the Lions and not talk about Jamal Williams. Like,
yeah, I mean, the dude just falls in the end zone. He's
just literally a touchdown machine.
Yeah. So I think it's a great spot. I think, if you want to take some Jamal anytime touchdowns, DeAndre Swift anytime touchdowns, DJ Chark anytime touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
Those could be some fun bets as well. Maybe throw in a Christian Kirk for good measure and parlay them up. We'll see. Do you have a latest on Travis Etienne? Is he playing this weekend?
So they're optimistic that he's going to be a go, but I mean, I'd be worried just with a foot injury. So I feel like it's going to be, even if he's active, it's a little bit less of the, I mean, he was seeing something like 85, 86% of the touches out of the backfield. Yeah. And J. Michael Hasty looked pretty good as a pass catcher. So I think it's a little bit closer of an even rotation if he's able to play.
Yep. I think that's a good call. So let's shift focus and go to your first NFL pick. And we'll talk about my Tennessee Titans catching 5.5 at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I feel like this number is inflated for some odd reason, and I really can't get a grasp as to why. I know Philadelphia is the only one-loss team in the NFL. They've looked really good. That being said, like Devonta Smith popped up on the injury report today. I think he's dealing with a groin issue. Yes, it's a revenge spot for A.J. Brown, but the Titans get to the quarterback really well. And I know Jalen Hurts is able to bust out and run all over people, but Philadelphia has allowed a lot of teams to play close to the vest here. And I think that Tennessee is the kind of team that if they can run a million times better than they did last week against Cincinnati in a game, mind you, that was close early and Derrick Henry did absolutely jack shit.
Yeah.
If they can just get back to even running even mediocre, I think that this game is, even pretty much the entirety of the day. And I wouldn't even mind going to the money line here on Tennessee. Like, I think Philadelphia is greatly overrated for what they're able to do on offense because the passing game is still very limited to me. And it's based off of them being able to run the rock, which Tennessee has been pretty good against this season.
Yeah, so the Titans could definitely run the ball, and the Eagles are terrible against the run. The Titans are actually really good against the run, against the passes where they struggle. But
Exactly.
the Eagles are so predicated on running the ball well, getting the play action going, and then obviously hitting bombs. AJ Brown yardage prop over is a great play. AJ Brown anytime touchdown, I think, is very much in the cards. But yeah, I think the Titans can muck it up. I think they can keep this game somewhat close. I think they make it kind of gross, like they like to do. It's very frustrating as a Titans fan because when they play good teams, they find ways to muck it up and keep it close. But then when they play crappy teams, they find ways to keep it close and muck it up, which is not something you're looking for against garbage. But they should be able to be competitive against Philly. I think, slow the run. Derrick Henry has a nice day. Eagles probably win, but it's probably like a field goal, 27-24, 23-24, that kind of game.
On that note, 3 of Tennessee's 4 losses are by 4 or less points this year, with their only one being that absolute drubbing by Buffalo in week 2. Yeah. But that was when they were still trying to work in the offense. Yeah. Like Treylon Burks was still, a freshie. Like he's worked into the passing game. Robert Woods looks good. This Tennessee team is much better than they were early in the season. This line is way too big.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit because they haven't faced a running quarterback since Daniel Jones and Josh Allen, but that was so early in the season, like you said. I think they've learned a lot. I think they've gotten much better. And Mike Vrabel does some weird things, like kicking field goals to be down 4 instead of down 7.
Exactly.
But he also is a great coach who really understands time and situation and puts his team in a chance to win real games. So totally like this call quite a bit. Chargers money line doing it again. They are at the Vegas Raiders, a Raiders team coming off of 2 straight wins, but 2 overtime wins against Denver, who sucks, who may be the worst team in football, and against Seattle, who had its time, had some fun, but they aren't that good of a team.
No,
they still are quarterbacked by Geno Smith. They have their warts. It's probably going to look a little gross, kind of like we saw last week, but I think the Chargers do enough, win the game, and I think the overtime, extra quarters for the Raiders is just gonna be that little bit of difference where the Chargers find a way to win this, sneak it out, and come out with a victory.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's any other side here than taking the Chargers. I mean, even with all their injuries, they're still a much better offense than what Vegas is able to put out there, because Vegas has Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. Yep. That's it.
And they can't get pressure on the quarterback. So obviously, the injury issues to the offensive line, potentially no Corey Linsley, is not great. But if there's a team to face when you're having offensive line issues.
Exactly.
I mean, Max Crosby's great, but everyone else pretty much stinks. So
yeah,
I think this, and then obviously linebacker issues, secondary issues. Like this is going to be a good game. I think competitive, and I think the Chargers find a way to pull it out. Your third and final pick is a little bit aggressive, but I like where your head's at. Miami Dolphins getting 4 on the road against San Francisco. We were talking a little bit before the show, but we got some really good afternoon football this week. Obviously, your Cowboys versus the Colts is fine. It's better than some of the crap we've had. Cincinnati, but if that's the worst game we've had, like last week we had the Rams and Chiefs, and
that game was horrible.
We've had some bad stuff.
Yeah.
We get this game, we get Cincinnati and Kansas City, which should be a lot of fun. We actually get 4 decent games, so I'm excited. But talk to me about your expectations for the Dolphins heading out to the West Coast.
I'm just going to preface this with the fact that Miami has won every single game that Tua has played the entirety of the game, or left because they were kicking the shit out of somebody.
Yep.
You're getting 4 points here. This offense is literally unstoppable right now, unless they're stopping themselves. Raheem Mostert should be returning this week for the duo of that backfield and their revenge against San Francisco. And on the other side of the ball, San Francisco may or may not have Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell's out 6 to 8 weeks. They're going to be going to either rookies or old man Tevin Coleman. out of the backfield. And yes, we all know San Francisco, they can plug anybody in there and be successful in the running game. That said, nobody's going to be afraid of those guys as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So they're going to be a little bit less dimensional on offense. Jimmy Garoppolo does not do well when he's got people at his feet, and Miami does a tremendous job at getting pressure on the quarterback. Like, this is, again, it's too many points for a team that is as good as Miami going on the road.
Yeah, it's probably a field goal game either way. As you mentioned, the Niners are banged up. They also have some injuries on both sides of the ball. Maybe without Debo, we'll see. And then I think this is, we're gonna get some weather here. A lot of wet is coming to the West Coast, but good spot for Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert to run the ball.
And I'd be remiss to mention that, yes, Miami's dealing with some issues on their own offensive line with both tackles possibly missing here, but they get the ball out so quick. I don't even think that's going to matter. Nick Bosa is going to have to either teleport to the backfield to get Tua, or they're going to have to be hoping that they're trying to take those deep shots, the 7-step drops. But Miami's has done such a great job at avoiding the hits on Tua. I think they devise a game plan that takes advantage of this defense, and they keep this game close and possibly win on the road.
Yep, I think that's a good call. So let's recap our card. Let's give the people our units per bet as we do each and every week. We go 10 units over 3 games. We don't have to use all 10, but that is our maximum. Brian, since you had the amazing week and your team won, I will give you the T. Recap your 3 bets, give us the units per bet, and I will jump on from there.
All right, so my first bet on Saturday night is going to be Michigan first half team total over 17.5 against Purdue. I feel pretty strongly about this. I'm going to go with a 4-unit play on this number here. They helped me cash last week. And then going on to Sunday, I got the Tennessee Titans catching 5.5 at Philadelphia. This is probably I feel the strongest about this play for the NFL Sunday slate. So I'm going to go with a 4-unit play here as well. And then for my last pick, I got the Dolphins getting 4 on the road in San Francisco. And I'm going to go just 2 units on that play with a little bit of deviation of there could be with sloppiness. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah.
And obviously that's a game that there's a world where the Niners win by, 10, 15 points. And it just doesn't come to fruition. So that's probably, I think that game has the most range of outcomes.
Yes, because Miami is very pass oriented. A lot of times games can get away from teams like that.
Yeah, and they're going to the West Coast. It's an interesting game, good defense. So I think that's probably the move. First bet, North Carolina Tar Heels plus the 7.5 versus the Clemson Tigers, putting 3 units on that. The Detroit Lions team total over 25.5. There's some 26.5 floating around out there as well. I'd be fine with that. I think they can score 27. But I just took the best number I could find, which at Fox Bet was 25.5 minus 110. So putting 4 units on that. And then the Chargers money line. Going to put 3 units on that. I'm a little of my 3 bets. That is the one that concerns me the most, just because the Chargers always find a way to charger their way through some games. But I just don't think the Raiders can win 3 in a row, including 2 overtime games. Although this will probably go to overtime too. Did you know I'm in a group chat full of Raiders fans, so I get little nuggets for them. Derek Carr is 9-1 in all of his overtime games. He's only lost 1 of 10 games. That's pretty impressive. So it really seems like they should just push to overtime and find a way to win. So those are our bets. As always, let us know down in the comments. What are you guys looking at this week? What bets do you like? Are you betting any of the games on Friday? Do you want to hit some of the college stuff? I was lucky enough to grab Michigan plus the 16 or minus 16 rather against Purdue, which I'm really happy with given where the number is at now. I don't know that I love the 17 and the hook. If you can get it to 17, I think it's fine, but we'll see.
That is a lot.
Yeah. Because these games are always a little bit closer than you expect, even with the spread and talent. And at some point, Michigan just be like, "Hey, yeah, we got the win. We're not stressing."
I was just going to say they are not going to end this game the same way they did against Ohio State. There's a little bit of a different meaning to these.
Unless Aiden O'Connell just throws like a pick 6 or something, and then who knows?
True.
But, that is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert. You guys enjoy the hell out of the games. We got World Cup on Saturday. Team USA versus the Netherlands.
Hey, I believe.
Which will be really fun. So that will get a mix in as well. We got soccer, we got football, we got basketball, we got hockey. It's a great time to be a sports fan. You guys enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.